And at number 8, we have Home Sweet Home Alone. Now, if you want to go check out the full review I did, I will leave a link to it up there so you can go check it out. I'll just give you a little clip note version of what I said. Basically, this movie didn't work because of the two convoluted stories they tried to put in this movie. One was about the Home Alone kid's family, Max, and then the other one was about this other family who's trying to get their doll back that they think Max stole. That's worth a lot of money. They can sell it on eBay to pay for their house and keep their house in that neighborhood so they don't have to move. And that's basically how they become burglars in this movie. But then in the end, it's all a big misunderstanding. The boy didn't take the doll after all. And it turns out it was in the house all along in this whole thing. I'm like, what was the whole point of going through this in the first place if you knew where it was? The whole thing didn't really make sense to me. And yeah, just the writing felt a little weak. It really didn't have any stakes or anything like that. This one just felt very forgettable. It didn't feel very memorable. It really didn't. And yeah, it just felt very lackluster. They just they came up with it at the last. They had one recurring cast member that was Buzz. He was a police officer, and they mentioned Kevin once that he runs a security service now. I'm like, okay. Apparently that first movie got into a security service apparently. But other than that, they just have little winks and nods here and there. But other than that, it really didn't help the movie or save the movie at all. Really. And at number 7, we have Dear Enhancement. Now this movie is the definition of generic cookie cutter, basic bare bones story that is so bland. It's not even funny. It's like the Hallmark network made this movie. Yeah, basically the Hallmark network writing team came in here, just wrote a musical, and they put it out, sell it all day. Because the characters basically they have no character in this movie. They're just there to exist and just move along. That's it. They get no character development. They get no story arcs. They get no nothing. They're just there to move along. I get it's a musical and stuff like that, but in musicals, they do have some character in there, and you get to know the characters, and some characters stand out. Here, the characters don't stand out for me. They're all basically forgettable. They're really forgettable. And the musical segment, they dragged on for a little too long. They just became irritating and annoying after a while. So yeah, this musical wasn't good at all. Not good at all. And at number 6, we have Karen. So apparently this movie came out this year. I didn't even know it came out. I even forgot it was coming out. So I checked it out, and yeah, basically it's just a repainted and reskinned Lakeview Terrace. And just basically the same plot, dialogue, everything. So basically this movie is about a black couple that moves into a white neighborhood, and the Karen doesn't like that they moved there. So she tries everything in her power to try to get them to move. She's on the board of the HOA, basically all of that. Now, synopsis of the plot of Lakeview Terrace. A black and white couple move to the neighborhood. Samuel L. Jackson doesn't like it. He tries to get them every power to move. He's a police officer. He abuses his authority. Basically, it's the same plot beat for beat, essentially. And yeah, it was just as bad. This Karen movie is so bad. The dialogue is so cringy. It's so predictable and everything. Basically, it's basically holding your hand and saying, yes, we're trying to make social commentary. We're trying to make social commentary. Please give our movie a 10 out of 10. Basically, it's holding your hand the whole movie, trying to say, we're making social commentary. No, you're not making social commentary. I get wanting to make a movie that is social commentary. There's a way to do it right. But this one is not done right at all. This one, like I said, it's just like for Terror beat for beat and shot for shot. And yeah, this movie was so predictable, and it basically held your hand the whole way. And at number 5, we have Infinite. So apparently this was a movie that was released on Paramount Plus because no other streaming service wanted it, so they said, the hell with it, we're gonna put it on Paramount Plus just for y'all to see. And this movie was so boring, I literally fell asleep. I had to wake myself back up and finish this movie. That's how boring this movie was. And the plot was just really confusing. I had no idea what was going on in the movie. Apparently he's an infinite, they have powers, there's negative and a positive. I have no idea what was going on during this movie. This would have been better as a series, like a little series show or something like that. That way you can explain more the backstory, the origin of who they are and stuff like that. But as a movie, as it stands, it was really bad, and the plot just felt all over the place, and the characters were really boring, really drab. Just felt like stale pieces of cardboard, and it's really difficult to make sci-fi boring, but they managed to make sci-fi boring. And yeah, if you want a solution to go to sleep, watch this movie, and then you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine for eight hours or so. And at number 4, we have Space Jam: A New Legacy. Now, when this movie came out, I was willing to give it a chance, and I watched the movie movie, and I really didn't like it. The soundtrack just felt really, really generic. It didn't stand out in any way. Now, the original movie soundtrack, you can memorize like songs from that movie. You can tell like, oh, that's my favorite track from the original Space Jam. It stands out. This movie soundtrack really didn't stand out. It just felt mushed in together. You can't really tell what's this song, what that song, what is yada yada yada. You couldn't name like a song from this movie. And LeBron's acting in this movie, it just felt very stilted in my opinion. Granted, in the other Space Jam, Jordan wasn't a Hollywood actor either, but at least he tried. At least he like cared enough to give a decent performance. LeBron in this movie just felt very like stilted, like he didn't want to be there. Like they woke him up at 2 in the morning and say, "Hey, you have to film this movie and just get it done for the day." And the CGI, like on the Looney Tunes when they brought him into the video game space, it just felt very jarring in my opinion, and it wasn't animated that well. And some of the emotional moments were pretty good, and some of the acting was pretty good, decent. I did enjoy Don Cheadle as a villain. He hammed it up, and I thoroughly tell he was giving a good performance and he enjoyed the role. But his performance wasn't enough to save this movie. It just felt like a cash grab. It is very, very boring, generic. Say we're gonna remake Space Jam for the sake of remaking Space Jam because people will like it. Sorry, that's not enough to save this movie at all. And at number 3, we have Thunder Force. Now, this movie was the only movie where I said stone face. I didn't even laugh. I just felt annoyed throughout the whole movie and wanted the movie to be over with. Melissa McCarthy's character, I did not like her whatsoever. She was really annoying. The dialogue is very cringy. I did not like it at all. It was just very annoying from beginning to end. The only good performance in this movie was Octavia Spencer. She really gave a good performance. And bless her heart for trying the dialogue that she was given. She actually turned out a really decent performance in this movie. And some of the side characters were pretty good. Other than that, the whole movie was just really irritating, really annoying. And the villains were basically forgettable. I don't even remember who they are. And other than that, it's just a really, really forgettable movie. And if you're trying to be a parody of superhero movies, you failed at that. If you're trying to be the next legit like superhero franchise, you failed that as well. You just didn't do good at all. Overall, it was just a total dumpster fire and a total mess. And at number 2, we have the Tom and Jerry movie. The animation in this movie is really spectacular. I really like it. It's really done very well. Very fluid, it's very solid. I really like that it's done very well. And it blends well into the live action setting, New York. The only parts that drag this movie down are the human characters. They're so like one dimensional, one note. Like they're not written very well. You don't care about like what they're doing. You don't care about this wedding. You don't care about this lady that's trying to get into the hotel business or whatever. You don't really care about all that. You came here to see Tom and Jerry. It's on the poster in the first place. They're in the poster. But they just mainly focus on the human characters and the very little screen time that Tom and Jerry do get in between like the human characters taking break from like dialogue is very minimal. I'm like, hey, I was promised Tom and Jerry, and then I get these human characters. Like, what is this? I feel gypped here a little bit. So yeah, the Tom and Jerry segments are really good. They're done very well. I really loved it. And the chemistry between Tom and Jerry is really good. I really like it. And some of the classic characters in here, I like that as well. But the humans, like story and stuff like that, as far as the human character story, I really don't care about. It's just really boring, generic, stuff like that. It's not written very well. So yeah, that's why this movie is at number 2, because of the human story. If it wasn't for that, it was just a plain old Tom and Jerry movie, it would be on my best list. But instead, you're at number 2. And at number 1, we have Black Widow. Now, this movie would have been better if it would have came out during the phase 1 of the MCU before like the character was killed off in Endgame. That would have been much better. I would have enjoyed this movie. I would have like wanted to see this movie, and it would have been much more hype for them. But as it stands right now, the character's already killed off, and they decided to release this movie now for whatever reason they did. And the hype just died down. There's no reason for this movie to exist at all. There is no reason. I don't know why they made it. But as it stands, was the movie good? No. It wasn't. It wasn't good. The main villain is just very generic, something like that. Nothing more. He's in charge of the Red Room, and his plan or anything doesn't really make sense to me. It really doesn't. And let's talk about Taskmaster. Oh boy. So Taskmaster, if you know like the origin of Taskmaster, it's Tony Master. And he's a human who just has an armored suit, like he can talk, he can move, like he's very human in like the original source, if you know. But in this movie they decided to change it to the main bad guy's daughter and just make Taskmaster a robot. No talking, no nothing, just plain robot. And the design for Taskmaster, oh boy. It looks like a dollar store, like Party City mask that you design at the last minute. It's not even close to Taskmaster at all. Character Taskmaster, it's nothing. I had a feeling it had no purpose in this movie. You would have cut it out. it would have no purpose. It would serve no purpose, and it really doesn't. And some of the CGI at the end, oh my, it was bad. Like really, really bad. You could see like how bad it was. Some of the CGI in this movie, Jesus, horrendous. They felt like they rushed it just to get it out at the last minute. There are some good elements to this movie, like the Red Guardian. He's really good. I love his character in this movie. David Harbour was really great as the Red Guardian. Fantastic. I love Yelena in this movie. I love her and Black Widow's dynamic in this movie. Whenever they're on screen, they're pretty cool. I really like that, and I love the whole family like in this movie. They have really great characters, stuff like that. And the backstory in the beginning was really good. It's really told very well about the Red Room, so that is really good. I really wish the villain was more, had more like oomph to him. But as it stands, it just looks like any like generic hammy villain like you find in any movie. Again, cut him out of the movie, it wouldn't be no big loss if I'm being honest. So yeah, the Black Widow movie lost all its hype after the character was already off in Endgame. CGI was pretty horrible. Villains were basically generic. If you cut them, no loss would be found. And yeah, pretty much a big letdown of this movie. Big letdown. But Yelena did come back in Hawkeye recently, and her character is much better redeemed there than it was in Black Widow. So that's big bonus points. But as it stands, this movie, not good at all. Home Sweet Home Alone came out, and yeah, it was not good at all. It just didn't hit like the original one did. The original one was, I wouldn't say a classic by any way, but the original one had like some oomph,